So we're going to talk about the concept of identity in Heidegger, especially as he develops it in Being Time. The question really is, who am I or who are we? Another way of asking this question is to say, what is the self? However, we're going to insist that asking the question, what is the self, is the wrong way of asking the question, since it presupposes that we are a type of entity that can be explained by asking a what type of question, not a who type of question. So, who are we? What is our identity? Heidegger tells us that our identity is the they self, which is everyone and no one at the same time. In this sense, we are basically an undifferentiated world without identity. We are a world in which our self is no different from the self of the others. The significance of this type of analysis is that it then puts the whole picture into perspective, in which we understand that we flip the whole paradigm of individuality on its head. The paradigm of individuality is a modern phenomenon that emphasizes, especially American individuality, emphasizes the individual over the collective. This belief is that we need to be self-sustainable entities, that we can stand on our own. And that is a paradigm that when we preach it, when we practice it for too long, it becomes so embedded into our psyches that we forget that this concept of individuality is somewhat of an exception rather than the norm. The norm, according to Heidegger, is that we are the they self, because the they self is a world of dealing with entities and concern. We deal with tools, with equipment, with everyday life, and at the same time with everyday people, with the community. So in this sense, we are, for the most part, absorbed in the world with other people. So our identity is a collective identity of which can be pinpointed to no one and everyone at the same time. However, Heidegger does have a way of explaining when the individual can become an individual. These are moments in one's existence that are, he calls them uncanny moments. Basically, what it boils down to is that one can become a self, an individuated self, only through the anticipation, the authentic anticipation of our death, what he calls being towards death. And what this basically means is that we understand our own most possibility, which is we hold the relationship to this possibility, in which we avoid disavowing the very possibility of our death. Ways in which we disavow the possibility of death is by trivializing death, by saying things such as, I will die one day, but not today, or Another way of disavowing death is to say that I will not die together. I will die with my loved ones. Heidegger believes that this is a way of covering up. This is a way of hiding from our own most possibility that cannot be outstripped by anyone or anything. Therefore, whenever we encounter this possibility as an authentic possibility, as a possibility that will negate all of our possibilities, our being towards death, when we understand our finitude, when we understand our own most potentiality for being, this is when one becomes an authentic. This is when one becomes oneself. However, like I said, the paradigm has been flipped on its head. The moments of individuality are possible, but are the exception rather than the norm. Our everyday lives, most of our existence, is spent in the world, as part of the world, with the community, as community, in which our identities are everything and nothing at the same time. And this is the concept of the self. This is the concept of identity of our existence.